Ran a little bit behind schedule, but hey, we're not really. Only a minute. Yeah, how's everyone been today? It's been a it's been an interesting week, I'll say. As usual, we're on Thursday. A little bit of way to end the day. Got an episode of What's Your Story. Hello, Marvy Carter. How are you? In case you're already online, let me call in the guest. Then I'll do the pop introduction.
Hello.
Oh, that was quick and easy. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
Wow. Okay.
You sound surprised.
Because sometimes in the beginning, there's been shows where there's been a few technical issues, so that part usually takes a bit of time. This was smooth,
Yeah.
easy, so that's a good omen. I'll take it as a good omen.
Okay.
So we did a introduction. Firstly, Marv Carter, Marvy, some other Carty, welcome
Yeah.
to episode 19, of What's Your Story? Which
Oh, thank you.
a
Thank you so much.
platform where basically it's the weekly IG live of Weekend Black Bias Forum. It's a platform for promoting, basically giving them voice and promoting, also propelling Black British book authors, illustrators, publishers, etc., etc. Welcome. So Marvy Carter is the author of Mario Loves Mango. She's also a publisher as well. And she published a book through her publishing company, Mango Land Publishing. So Marvy,
Yes.
how are you? So,
I'm great. Great. And how are you?
so first, am I saying your name right? Marvy Carter, yeah?
Yeah, Marva. Yeah, two syllables, very easy. Marva. As it looks is how it is. Yeah.
Okay. A few people here. So hello, Baller Boys Books joined. Hello. Welcome for joining us. And VLG Coaching joined. Oh, yeah, okay.
Hi, good evening to everyone.
So how's your day been? How's your week been actually? How's your day been before we get into the interview?
I'm still trying to get over the fact that it's July already. June seems to have flown by.
Hmm.
I know we say that about every month of the year, but I just turned around and it was July. I was like, wow, before you know it, dare I say it, summer will be over and it'll be Christmas.
I know. It's weird because now, obviously, because this is the period of like the it's almost it's a market period because it's like officially like 6 months, like half the year, isn't it? So
Yeah,
it's the time
exactly.
people start going back, looking over their goals and looking over their resolutions.
Exactly.
Then
You know, you had the June 13 milestone dates of things you're supposed to achieve, and then you look at it and you're like, ah.
yeah, what that too. Yeah, that's good. So let me just get to the interview then. Okay, so I actually bought your book twice, but I bought it not for me. I bought it as a gift for someone because there's friends like
Did
this.
you,
I bought them as a gift for
did
someone.
you leave a review for me? Did you? Did you do a review?
No, I've done a few. No, I've posted articles about you on my page.
I've seen that, which was really great. But you need to leave a review for me.
I've done reviews. But but I bought books though. But I bought them as gifts for like there's friends I know who had children. Some of them have little girls or boys. Like I bought one for a friend of mine because I know they're very big on juicing and fruits and getting their children to like more fruits and things like that. So I bought it for them. But it's interesting though because when I reached out to you for interview, you accepted. I thought let me do. I already questions in my mind. I thought let me do a quick Google search, see what I see. And I saw your Twitter. It says you're the author of Maryland's Mangoes, publisher of Mango Lab Publishing. The last thing was lover of humorous shenanigans.
Yeah.
You said that.
So I'll explain that. So everyone who knows me personally and dare I say professionally knows I love a good laugh. That's kind of like my main personality trait. I have a very good sense of humor. I try to see, the fun in things, where appropriate. And so that's kind of my kind of, when people if people ask, oh, do you know Marv? It's like, oh yeah, she's the one who's always laughing or, whatever. When I leave the office for a while, people say, oh, it's not quite the same when you're not here because there's maybe not someone kind of giving jokes and seeing the light side of things. So that's what I mean about that. It's my way of stress relief, and I think it also is a big part of my cultural background because even though I was born in the UK, I grew up in Trinidad. And Trinidadians are known for their banter and light-hearted kind of spirit and always trying to see the humor in things. So I think that it's partly a personality thing and partly part of my cultural upbringing. And this is kind of what I try to infuse into the book, because what I felt is that there, especially in the last couple of years with all the, turmoil and, heavy events that we've all gone through globally and as a people, um, that there have been more books, which is fantastic. But sometimes the subject matter can be quite heavy or maybe, and don't get me wrong, all those messages are extremely important and we need them. But I think sometimes we kind of forget that we need, particularly when we're dealing with children, that we need to have not only a balance, but also remember that they are children ultimately, and that their instinct is to look for joy, look for lightness. And where if we can show examples of that alongside, educating and teaching and, carrying on those stories, then I think that's an important part of the agenda that I want to bring and that I think we should collectively think about. So I feel that because of my experiences and how I am, that I am more attuned to that side of things. But at the same time, make no mistake, I very much you know keep myself on the pulse of what's going on and what issues are, important. So that's kind of at the root of what I was trying to do. I would say the book is kind of autobiographical, because I was, am, and will forever be obsessed with mangoes. It's killing me the price of a box of mangoes in this country. It is just highway robbery. But what can I do? But yeah, it's a kind of the main character, Mari, she's 7 and she's obsessed with mangoes, and she's kind of a composite of myself and other little girls that I know, and kind of just a kind of a pick of the best, or that I could come together with for this character. And what I also wanted to bring across that kind of fun and lightheartedness of being a child in the Caribbean, the colors, the flora, the fauna, just the simplicity, without having too much of a heavy story.
Okay, let me check back a little bit because you can't answer a few more questions I planned already, but yeah, but let me just go back a little bit before I get into the book about so I was gonna ask you first, like when did your passion for writing or literature begin?
Well, I mean, I was an unashamed bookworm as a child. Back in the, as my son would say, in the days of black and white, before the internet. I didn't grow up with the internet and that kind of stuff. So for us, it was either books or TV, or playing outside or whatever. And to be honest, I wasn't much of a going outside. My nose was always in a book, rightly or wrongly, and so that's and I didn't discriminate about what I read. I read anything I could get my hands on in the house, outside, whatever. I would on the drive to school, I'd sit in the back of the car, read my dad's newspapers. I come home, I read the encyclopedia. I was a bit, a compulsive reader. So I think, in relation with that, then obviously your mind becomes more attuned to writing and paying attention to stuff like that. So I must say, I kind of, when I was in university and, kind of, dabbled in writing and stuff, but I never really felt confident because, you know, there's kind of this, as you may be aware, this kind of snobbery about people who try to, write their own things if it's not endorsed by, certain people or it's not in a particular style. So I always kind of thought, oh, well, that's not good enough or, whatever. So you kind of put things down or, whatever. But it's always kind of been there. And then just in more recent times when I've seen other people doing it, and I thought, well, if they could do it, why not me? And I think ultimately everyone has a story in them, whatever style or shape that might be. And we are in a time where, you know, we have the means in which everyone can tell their story if that's what they want to do. There are no more gatekeepers to say, oh, you have to wait till this person thinks that you're, of the right, style or right, so it's really really encouraging. And even for children, I've seen so many children actually producing books and good books, and I think to myself, wow, if I had that if I had that when I was a child, I'd probably be sitting on my own private island by now, because I probably have about 200 books, and I'll just be living off, so hopefully, who knows, but, it's just amazing. It's just amazing the opportunities now, and also that the information and the knowledge is being shared more widely, so yeah, that's kind of, I may have gone a bit off tangent from your question there, but ultimately I think I answered it.
Now, the two things you mentioned that I really have to relate, I actually relate to as well. One was like it's a lot easier. There's so many tools out there now that makes it a lot easier for people to be aware of the tools that you need to write books in the first place. The internet's been such a game changer where was before the only thing you had was the gatekeepers. Now I'm seeing so many people, more people take the independent route, doing it for themselves. And I agree with what you said about children. Like I was shocked when it was last year. I think it was the Black British Book Festival. I saw so many like little children, like 14, and that with their own books. And I'm thinking, I'm there thinking, wow, I'm here trying to write my book. I'm here dragging my feet, and these young ones are just doing that. Are just doing it out the gate, like nothing. I thought, wow,
Yeah, and with such confidence because they don't seem to have that imposter syndrome that we older ones have. They're just saying, I want to do it, and they're just doing it, which is really, really inspiring, you know, um, you know, and I think that it should definitely be encouraged, and also I think they're benefiting from seeing more books that are reflective of them. Whereas when, we would have been growing up, we weren't seeing those, you'd have one or two. And even then you think, oh, well, I still can't do it, because there's only room for, that one or that two or, those, so yeah, it's really it's like a new era. The only thing I would say as well is that there's also a danger in that, to a certain extent, depending on where you look, there can be too much information, and it can be overwhelming for some people who want to get started. And one of the things I think that kind of concerns me is sometimes, when you're in certain, groups, you'll see like scammers come up who want to offer their services to people who really don't know none of the ins and outs. So in as much as there are a lot of freely available resources, you also people have to be careful of the scammers and the wolves that are out there that are trying to take advantage of people who may not know the lay of the land, and try and get them to part with money, and get nothing in return. So yeah, but there are some, good companies out there that are helping people to produce their books as well. So yeah. I think you
I
now.
was gonna ask you, so came to writing your book. What was the like? Took me through the whole process. So what's the process from like starting from when you had the idea to go on the book yet to then put it? Like,
Yeah.
what's the process like for you?
Well, I mean, I took quite a practical approach because um I think, and this is just from personal observation, I think from what I've seen, most people kind of think they have an idea for a book, and then they write the book, and then they think about, okay, what do I do now? Whereas I kind of had maybe the reverse approach, in that I actually had a different idea for a book. And I started doing, like, and this kind of happened like just before lockdown. So it's like around January 2020. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look into this seriously. 2020 New Year, blah blah blah. Had no idea what was coming in the world, right? Um, and so I started trying to do research as to how you would go about, producing or publishing a book, etc. So I kind of started to do general research. And so I done that for quite a while. And then obviously in lockdown, you started to see that boom of people doing writing, book sales skyrocketing, all those different factors that happened, during the phenomenon of lockdown. And so I started paying attention to all those things. And then in August 20, so what year are we in? 2021. I just had this idea. I was literally sitting in here. I'm probably staring out the window in quiet reflection. And just out of nowhere, it just came to me, this story about the girl and the mangoes, and I just started writing it down, right? And I kind of, in free writing, but the idea, and then I kind of left it for a bit. And I thought, oh, that was a bit random. Um, and then it kind of kept coming back, like it kept niggling at me. And I thought, So then I decided to look for an illustrator. right? So I had kind of been looking at illustrators for the other project for a while through I don't know if you the freelance platform called Fiverr where you can hire illustrators, yeah. So I kind of been semi-stalking some people on there for like a few months, looking to see what projects they've done, you know, their reviews, etc. And so there was one that I quite liked, and I decided to send them a sample page. No, to ask them to do a sample page based on the book. Um, and I was so taken aback by what they sent back that I just got really excited. And I was like, okay, let's just press forward with this. And I didn't actually tell anybody. I would just kind of quietly was doing it, you know, and putting everything together. And I had tried, you know, my aim initially was to get it out in time for Black History Month in October. But in the end, I think we didn't finish until like the end of October. So I ended up publishing in the beginning of November. And I didn't really have any expectations because to me it was, let's just see what happens. It was more about understanding the process. So when it came out and, you know, the response and the feedback was, you know, so positive and people really excited, you know, it really was it kind of took me aback a bit, to be honest, because you know sometimes you get kind of absorbed and wrapped up in your own project that you're not really thinking so much about, you know, what you're thinking more the mechanics of what you're doing as opposed to then what comes next after you finish it. So to be fair, I hadn't really put in place like a proper promotion plan and marketing because I had, you know, because everything I was kind of doing myself and I was so kind of caught up in the details of each step and it was all new for me because, you know, I say this is the first one. You don't know how it will all hang together, you know, even the whole process, because, um, you know, for a picture book, it's very different to a book without, you know, just a book that's text, because you have to collaborate with the illustrator. You have to start with, you know, you send them. So I wrote the words and then I send them a brief of what I was looking for. But until you see things develop, you're not sure necessarily what will work until you actually see those sketches or you see certain things, or you might have had an idea of how you think things should be placed, but until you actually go through, you know, that collaboration, you realize, oh, well, that may not work, or um, you know, you're trying to pack too much on a page spread or whatever. So it's a totally different process and mindset to I guess, you know, just a text a textbook. And these are all things I had to learn. And I found it very fascinating, a very exciting process. Um, it may not be something that everyone is into, but I really enjoyed it. And I may have been quite lucky because my illustrator quite they got what I was, you know, what my vision was. And also, I think what a lot of people may not realize, and I didn't realize this until I started doing this, is that if you are traditionally published, which is kind of like if you get a book deal and you're taken on board by a publishing house, you don't actually have control over the illustrations. They will assign an illustrator to you, and that illustrator could do anything, right? And you don't, I mean, you could say, I like it, but ultimately it's not your final say. So some people are lucky in that they get, you know, to voice their opinion more, but generally it's not the case. So the benefit of independently publishing is that I can tell them, of course, taking on board the advice of professionals because they are the professionals, but ultimately I can decide what I overall I want to see. So that's a big benefit. But yeah, overall, it was a very exciting, process. I also work completely online with my illustrator, and they were in a different time zone to me. So what would happen is I would get up in the morning and there would be sketches and images waiting for me. So it was kind of like, for a while, it was like Christmas. Every morning I'd get up and there'd be presents, So like it was great, So yeah.
Well, so since you have to quite a few challenges, and it's almost like the people struggle with you to enjoy it. But yeah, just in the last one, it must have been hard, like working from different time zones. But okay, so we go from that year. So you've gone through this journey to get the book done. So when the book was finally completed, how did it feel when you got that delivery box and you received the first draft? And also, what
Listen,
kind of reception?
listen.
What kind of reception did you get from your friends, family, things like
It was great. It was great. I tell you, I mean, I think some of the best reactions were from, the children. I had like I had one voicemail from a friend's daughter. She had ordered the book and she was just so excited. And I got quite emotional because that's who you're doing it for, and kids don't lie. If they think it's boring, they'll tell you, you know. So, it's just, and then like even going into schools, the first time I did a school visit was on World Book Day this year, and I went to a school in North London. And I swear, it was one of the best days of 2022. They were so excited. Of course, they were all dressed up in their book day costumes. They, they had so many questions, they were just so fully engaged, and it was just like the best kind of feedback you can get. And, they were just really excited. I kind of thought, well, they're not going to be that excited, for me to come in. But they were really, and it comes back to the whole thing about representation, and, them seeing someone that looks like someone in their family or, in their community doing things that not they may not necessarily have thought was open to them or would have been considered, particularly at that age. We're talking about 6 and 7-year-olds, you know. So yeah, that was, and everyone has been so supportive, and also, you know, just generally the community, people such as yourself, media, writers, readers, bookshops, just everyone has just been really encouraging. Other writers, other people, other books, bigging you up, and I try to reciprocate. There's no like sense of, there's not this kind of like crab in the barrel mentality, where everyone's just out for themselves. Well, at least I haven't come across it, so that's been, I can't say that I've been disappointed by, the response, even, people that I don't even know who have had the books and stuff. So yeah, it's been really great.
so obviously you're an author and you're also a publisher as well. So as you've already alluded to, You have to do a lot. Basically, so you've alluded to this already, but also it's a common thing I've seen with like your office where obviously you have to do a lot of the promotional side of things yourself. And I know you've done but just trying to know how have you found that it's been difficult. Have you found the promotion so how have you found the promotional element regarding getting your pick out there? Like I know you've been to events like the Windrush Festival, the London Book Fair, even that I don't know if you went to I know there was a self-publishing show conference recently. Like, like, do you go to kind of event? How have you found like go to these events and plug in your book? Like, that's the question.
It is very challenging. I'll tell you why. Because so I think it's more complex than people realize. If you are an independent children's book author, particularly of picture books. So I unwittingly chose the hardest area to try and sell books, because whereas not to say that it's necessarily easy in other categories, but the kind of big players in the independent, the people who do really well in independent publishing tend to be in areas like contemporary romance, and, those kind of hot genres where people read a lot. They read a lot of ebooks and they read them very fast, right? And they can basically churn out, I say churn out, they spend a lot of time writing, books and releasing them in quick succession on Amazon, mainly, as well as other platforms, but mainly Amazon. And they don't have as much cost because they're doing ebooks, and they can turn over and use basically the Amazon platform, whether that's like the people who subscribe to like Kindle Unlimited and whatever, because they're already paying a subscription and they'll just read through as many books as possible, and they will get a portion of the Kindle profit fund, right? So the kind of big fish would do that. For me, what I've come to realize, because I've tried to follow the advice of, people um, who belong to these kinds of groups and stuff, and I realized that what they do can't work for me, because my customers would be parents and guardians and teachers, children, right? And they don't want the children on the ebooks for the most part. They want them to have physical copies. Um, so it's more about, finding those people, for the direct sales, and that's more of a challenge. So it's kind of, I think, more of a slow burn, and building community and building, reaching out to specific, demographics. So it's a little more challenging, but none of this is ever easy, is it? So yeah.
So one topic that seems to always come across when it comes to book publishing is that of diversity. Since obviously we had the whole BLM movement and suddenly people start to recognize black people in different fields, and I know it's also something in the literature field as well. We're suddenly you're seeing the mainstream media suddenly acknowledging or 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 to a degree putting a bit of a spotlight on black authors and things like that. Do you think things have changed? Are things improving? Or
Um, yeah, it's definitely a step forward, but there's a long way to go. Because I think you may see more, you may see more, but it's still not enough. And then it's a question of what do you see? And who do you see? Um, and I think that um, particularly in the UK, we are still quite far behind, say, the US, which of course makes sense because, you know, different kind of scenario there. But I think there has been, you know, you know, there has always been, there have always been people writing, there have always been people producing, and there have always been these works available. But I think that more are coming into the mainstream, right? And in areas that we wouldn't normally see. But I think there is still a lot more that needs to be done. And also it goes back to what I was saying before about not everything that not all the Black books have to be about trauma or about you know um you know teaching about these things that how we were done wrong or whatever. As I said, that is important, but it also, if we go down that road of centering it always on that, then we miss an important message in that ultimately what we are trying to say is we're like everybody else. We're human, right? So our range of expression and our range of experiences do not just come from one particular area. We laugh, we cry, we do crazy things. We have a breadth of experience and life, and just like any other ethnicity. So we should be able to show that, and not just what is deemed acceptably Black. So yeah, I'm all for the whole gamut of the Black experience. And there's I've come across, even in the last week, books, they're great booksellers and Black booksellers and bookshops out there that are featuring books that I've never seen before in all kinds of different areas. Really great stuff. So we just need to see, because the mainstream will keep pushing, the favored few, or maybe the Black celebrity fronted material, or whatever. But we need to see all different facets.
Just before I continue, I just want to ask, does anyone have any questions? Anyone listening? There's a wave from B. Howard Phipps.
Hi, Barbara.
Oh, you know that is
Actually, Barbara has been a mentor to me in this process. She's a writer of cozy mysteries based in the US. So you all can follow her too. She's been so helpful to me, and she actually helped me kind of start off. And when I didn't know my A's from my B's. So hi, Barbara. Oh.
Now, as far as the main questions for the interview, I've finished. But but for every show, I was asked a few ad hoc literature type questions. These are questions aimed at.
It's not going to be a quiz, is it? Put me on the spot.
It's not quiz. It's like no. It's like, so here's one. Here's I do not do. In your opinion, what are the three things that make a good children's book?
Nobody ever asked me that question before. I gotta think now. I think maybe the first thing is it should be easy to grasp or understand. It can't be complex. so that the child does, kind of goes over their head. They should be able, and this is actually the challenge sometimes, is that you may have important or, you know, complex issues that you want to teach a child and you have to distill it down to their language. So that's one. Two, it should be interesting. They should actually want to read it. So it should be engaging and appealing to them, whether that's in this story, the illustrations, the whole kind of package, of the book. And then thirdly, I would say maybe it should give them something to think about, whether that's, it teaches us something or reinforces something or makes them think. So yeah, I think those would be what I would say would make a good children's book.
The question is, what is your, do you have a favorite children's book yourself?
Oh, um, I find it very hard to like pick one of any kind of book, because I think like I've just read so many different. I think the only kind of book that yeah, I can't say I have a favorite. Um, no, no, that would be too hard. That would be too hard to choose.
There's no question, there was that one. And this is related to any kind of book. Do you have, what would you say, as what would be your three favorite books of all time?
Okay. I would say, when I say favorite, I think maybe it's probably the books that have had the most impact on me, or made the most impression on me. The first book I would say was actually Roots by Alex Haley. I actually had no business reading that book when I was 10 or 11 or whenever I was, but I found it. My parents had it in a box somewhere, and as usual, just picked it up and started reading. I couldn't put it down. And ironically, for someone who, grew up in the Caribbean, it kind of blew my mind as to the perception of um, Africa and identity, and because even in those places we kind of had this imagery of it being this monolithic kind of sort of primitive place, and whatever. And and that book was, I don't know, like 700 or 800 pages. It was massive. And I just picked it up and I couldn't stop. I was just hooked. I went through the whole story, and it just made such an impact on me, just the whole journey you know, um, from being captured and then going to America and all the generations after and everything. And the irony is, I didn't actually see the TV miniseries until like more recently as an adult. So for me, my experience of Roots was actually the book. And as it just had it really kind of shaped my impression of as a black person and an identity. So that was probably the most influential book, or my favorite. I haven't read it since then, so I may go back now and be like, I don't know about this, but just for overall impact, that would be it. Secondly, um, probably The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I really just the poetry of that book, just something about it just really spoke to me. And I must admit, I'm not someone who's really into like poetic stuff. And Thirdly, oh gosh, what's my third? Hmm. Gosh, that's a tough one now. Probably, I wouldn't say favorite, but I think another book that kind of messed with my mind was Beloved by Toni Morrison. To do that one in university, and that one was kind of traumatic, but um, was uh, was pretty good. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you saw a black character in a book? Do you remember what that was?
First time I saw a black character in a book. Um, I don't remember the first time, but what I think made a great impact on me was some of the books that I read in English literature in when I was in secondary school in Trinidad, um, that featured Black characters or Caribbean characters. Most of our books were kind of like your British colonial, whether that's Shakespeare, etc. But we did have a few that were based on, that were written by Caribbean authors. And one of the books that was I probably should put this as my third favorite book. And I don't know if it's one that people would be really familiar with. It's called Crick Crack Monkey by Merle Hodge. Merle Hodge is kind of like a legend in the Caribbean writing. And it's a story about a girl who is taken from the countryside. Her mom has died. Her dad has moved to, I think, England or America. And she is kind of shipped off to her mom's sister, who is this kind of like upper middle class family in the capital, and they kind of have pretensions of being higher than they are. And it's just kind of like all the her experience moving from that kind of rural, humble environment to go into this new fancy school. And it's absolutely hilarious book, but um it's just one of my favorite books. I could probably recite the passages from it by heart, but yeah, I think those books made quite an impact on me. But I can't say I remember the first time seeing um a black character. I guess because when you grow up in an environment where most of the people that you see around you are reflective of you, I probably wasn't so hungrily looking for that, as opposed to if I had grown up in England where I'd be more in a minority. So it wasn't something that I actively sought out until I was more probably in my teens than a younger age.
Let's say here's a scenario, yeah? A publisher company reaches out to you, said, yeah, I'm a job back, like your style. We're gonna fund your a big idea for you to do for us. We're gonna give you money to write a biography on any person of your choice. Who would it be?
A biography on what? Sorry, on who? Sorry.
They're gonna give you money. They're gonna fund a project for you to write a biography on any person of your choice.
Hmm.
It could be a historical figure.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I guess it has to be someone who doesn't already have a biography. Um, I'm kind of stumped to that one. because I guess the people that automatically kind of spring to mind are the people whose stories are already captured, but maybe somebody like the first the first person the first person on earth. I think they might have some interesting things to tell us. You know, they say the first person came from Africa. Be interested to know what they got up to during their life.
And lastly, what are the future plans for Mangoland Publishing? Do you have any other books coming out?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
Marley going to
So
be
I
is Marley going to be a series, or do you have like other events coming up as well? Yeah.
yeah. So I'm currently working on the second in the series. I haven't decided on the release date yet, but it's imminent. We have some events that I can't really talk about yet. But watch, just follow me on the socials, at Marvacati Author, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll highlight on mangolinepublishing.com. So yeah, there's a few things in the works that I can't talk about yet, but yeah, there's definitely big plans ahead. So I would encourage people to, stick close. And if you've got my book and you haven't put a review, can I please ask that, because it really does help with the algorithm, etc. You might think it's not a big deal, but it does actually help, and it helps other people, to see more reviews. So, oh, how could I forget? The something I can talk about actually is so a few months ago, I was given an opportunity to translate Mary Loves Mangoes into Welsh um, with the assistance of Lily Translates, who's based in Wales, a Black author and publisher based in Wales, and she offered the opportunity to 6 authors of color to have their works translated to increase the representation of books from authors of colors in Wales. And this has also been done in conjunction with the Welsh Nursery Movement. So we're actually launching the Welsh version on the 4th of August at the, I please hope I'm saying it properly, the Eisteddfod, which is an enormous festival of Welsh culture that typically happens every year in a different part of Wales. And this it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I think they have like 100,000 people that come to this event over 6 days. And so the official launch of the Welsh version of Mary Loves Mangoes will happen on the 4th at the Mudiad Methrin, which is the Welsh Nursery Movement stand at the fair. So I'll post more details about that closer to the time once the release goes out, etc. But that's something really exciting and was a completely unexpected kind of turn of events. So yeah. So yeah, there's things there's definitely things in the works, and I will do my best to keep everyone updated and share those as we go along. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have no more questions, and there's also any
Okay.
questions in the thing. So yeah, yeah, thanks for being today's guest. I was gonna,
No,
I
thank
was gonna,
you.
I was gonna to plug on it if you did it already. Really plugged the website and everything. Yeah, yeah. I look forward to more, hear about more about Murray's journeys, and just having.
Yeah.
Are we still going? Are we still going to hear about mangoes in it, or is it other themes now? Are mangoes still going to play a part in
No, 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 no. Well, enough of mangoes.
it?
She does do other things as
Yes, yes,
well.
yes,
So,
yes, yes. But no, yeah, definitely just keep in touch. Keep in touch. Yeah,
yeah. Thank you
yeah.
so much.
I'll keep an eye on your development, and I hope
Yeah.
things go well for you in now in the future, especially with the publishing thing as well. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much.
No,
And
thanks.
thanks for everyone tuning in. Thank you.
Definitely, anytime, anytime.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah, take
Bye.
care. Have a nice evening. Take care.
Okay. You too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.